Afternoon punters, I'm back at Flemington, down at the 600 metre mark where the windsock is. And after Flemington raced brilliantly last week, slightly different set of circumstances going into this meeting, fairly complex set of circumstances, and how the jockeys ride the track will have a big impact. So if I just walk up towards the home turn, those inside two lanes, we had a meeting back earlier in winter where the rail's in the 9 metre mark, and the track really hasn't recovered that well in these inside two lanes. Now as I move out to the, say, lanes 3, 4 and 5 on the turning part of the track, and this goes all the way around to it's the same all around to the 1400 metre mark. I don't know if it's coming up all that well on the camera or not, but this is where the irrigator rolls around, and I think it's actually going to be an advantage tomorrow to sit 3 and 4 wide on the turning section of the track. If I was talking to a jockey that was riding a leader, I'd say don't be scared to ride the way that B. McDougall rode Sahitsi back at that meeting when the rail was in the 9 metre position, where he sat 3 or 4 off the fence on the entire turning part of the track. I think that's the best way to ride a leader on this course tomorrow. But it's splitting hairs a little bit, but I think that is going to be an advantage, because as you see, when you come into this part back where there was a lot of traffic, that 9 metre rail meeting has had a little bit of traffic since. There's a fair bit of wear on these inside two lanes, and the track is just that little bit softer because the irrigator rolls out in these lanes, in lanes 3, 4 and 5. Now as we get up to the home turn, the irrigator actually stops here, and they water this section of the track with the big gun sprinklers. So that firmness in these lanes I'm talking about out here, disappears a bit for 100 metres or so, but it's certainly there from the 1400 metre mark right around to the 600. So I think horses jumping in the circle races, jumping from middle to wide draws tomorrow, racing off the rails, will have an advantage. So now, as we saw in race 10 last week, even though that was an advantage to have a little bit of cover and sitting just off the lead last week and pulling out to the centre of the track, if you give the leaders too soft a time in front, they'll be extremely hard to beat. And they, of course, Spanish Reef and Eureka Street dominated that race and never looked like doing anything other than running the Quinella. I think there could be a bit of that tomorrow, because we've got a fair few races there around the circle that seem to be lacking pressure. So I think, given that we've had a couple of meetings in a row here with big winds and jockeys have been a bit reluctant to lead, there's a wind tomorrow, but it's not as strong. So I think the wind will be a minor factor tomorrow. So I'm sort of thinking middle to wide draws around the circle, racing on pace, is going to be ideal, and I wouldn't really want to be further back than midfield, to be honest. Now as we get up to the home turn, sort of splitting hairs a little bit, but the inside two lanes are probably going to give away first. It's not no-go zone or anything, but I think the jockeys will avoid the inside two lanes. They'll pull out to lane sort of 3 out to probably about 10, and that's where the action will be. I think lanes probably 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 will be best, which is, I'm right in the middle of that now. That's actually the part of the track that is affected by the big irrigator, and that irrigator would have been rolling around here last night when they put 6 mils of irrigation on in very windy conditions. So that's my thoughts on the circle races. Now in the straight races, I'll just come out to the outside fence. That wind was blowing from the north, so from the outside rail towards the inside rail here yesterday when they were irrigating, and it would have been hard for them to keep the water on the outside. I think with races, the straight races tomorrow being races 7 and 9, and that there's other lanes over there I was just talking about getting a fair bit of traffic through the day, I think they should come to you never know what the jockeys are going to do, but I would think they'd be best served to come to the outside rail in the outside, the closer to the outside rail, the better, really. I would think in the 2 straight races. So Another good day's racing, looking forward to it, and I'm sure we'll find a few winners like we did last week. Cheers, punters.